What up, guys? The Bench Buddies are back with the college basketball week 15 top 25. As always, we normally have Ty joining us, but this week he is in a work bind, so he won't be joining this video. But before I get into the top 25, we got to talk about the teams that dropped from the rankings. And I have Auburn and Rutgers falling from the rankings. Rutgers was with a tough week, and same with Auburn, losing some games in a close way. But we'll move to the others receiving votes, and you have some teams pulling off some big wins. Missouri, Pitt is a surprising team in the ACC. Illinois still hanging around. The Wolfpack, Nevada coming out of the Mountain West is playing good ball, and NC State is a surprise team still in the ACC, and they're a team that I think could make some noise here coming into March. But we have to talk about who's 25th, and that is the Northwestern Wildcats. Yes, they're making our rankings, not the AP rankings, but we got to give them credit for beating the number one team in the country. And they do not play Rice and Louisiana Tech this week. Didn't update that one, but everything else is correct. This team pulled off the huge upset, obviously against Purdue, and they stormed the court and whatnot. And it was, especially on Sunday, the only ranked team playing. It was very uncharacteristic of Purdue losing that kind of way. They have had close games where they've almost tripped up and lost. Northwestern finally gave them that loss in conference, and they're only 2.5 games back from them. So we're going to have to see moving forward if they can even catch them moving forward. But this week they do play Indiana at home and then Iowa at home on Sunday. So it should be some tough matchups for these Wildcats to see if they will still be ranked next week. 24, Florida Atlantic is staying put. They had 2 close wins over decent teams in Conference USA, so they're staying put. They have a 2-game lead over North Texas, and they only have 1 game this week. And this team could make some noise come March around that 8-9 seed line. 23, the Cyclones are falling back 9 spots, and this is in part to them. Well, they had 2 losses last week. They are 3-6 in their last 9 games. And how do you get rewarded? You get 2 ranked matchups this week in Big 12. And I could easily see this team being 3-8 in their last 11 and on a 4-game losing streak just because of how this team has played. And then TCU, kind of the same way. They're 1-3 in their last 4, and this team really needs to get it going again. They lost to both of these teams already in Big 12 play this year. They need to get some revenge on them so they can go 2-0 and jump back up in the Big 12 standings as well. But if this team gets Mike Miles back and he starts playing, this TCU team is a whole different team. And I think that could be something to monitor going into March, and especially for seeding for March Madness. 21, the San Diego State Aztecs jump back into our rankings, and they have not been in our rankings for at least, I think, half of the year now. Ever since our preseason, they've been floating around there, but nothing lately. And here they are back in. They're 7-1 in their last 8. They have a conference lead over Nevada by 1 game. And this could be another team that's around the 8-9 range that could make a run. This team is always around that range, it feels like, come March, and they at least win a game or 2 and make some noise. 20, the Providence Friars are currently at halftime right now, down 2 to Creighton. And this is going to be a huge game for them if they can win that to get back up into the Big East standings. But they're a game and a half back of Marquette and a game back from Xavier and Creighton. So that could flip the script immensely in the Big East. But it's going to have to come on Bryce Hopkins and Devin Carter, the 2 leading scorers on the team. And this team, I don't think many people thought they would be as good as they were last year, but here they are proving that they are. 19, UConn is moving up 2 spots. And this one, well, they got some wins last week, went 1-1. They're 5-7 still in their last 12, though. And this team really needs to win out to be a legitimate contender for March Madness. It's been a struggle. They were number 1 twice in our rankings at one point, and then just have fallen off since those last 12 games. But I think there's still belief that this UConn team can be legit. They just need the right matchups. 18, Creighton is also moving up. This team is on an 8-game winning streak, fully healthy. Kalkbrenner is being an absolute unit for them in the paint, and taking over games, and big reason why they're on this 8-game winning streak. Trey Alexander has been great as well. And, if they can go into Providence and get a win and go into St. John's and get a win, you might be looking at a top 15, almost top 10 team next week. 17, Miami Hurricanes are very, very underrated still at this point in the season. They're on a 5-game winning streak now. They did beat UNC last night. They're hitting their stride perfectly, 12-4 in the conference. It's almost their conference to lose. There's a few teams that are very close, but this team looks like they're on track to be a top 3 seed for the ACC tournament. Xavier's fallen one spot just because this team has been kind of up and down these last few weeks. They have to go on the road to face Marquette. That's going to be a very tough game for them, and then should beat DePaul at home. And they are a half game back behind Marquette in the Big East for first place. So they can go in there, flip the script on that. Xavier might be jumping back up almost into the top 10 if they can get that very big win. 15, Kansas State falls 2 spots. They are slowly fading, 2-4 in their last 6, with their only wins being Florida and TCU. But they have had their hardest part of the Big 12 schedule now. You can see they're winning 4 of 6 games against bottom 4 in the conference. And I can really see this team kind of getting right going into that Big 12 tournament just because of the easier schedule. Gonzaga is moving up to 14, and they escaped BYU from a late second half surge to get back up and almost into the top 10 here. But their big question mark is hanging with the big time teams come March. If they get to the Sweet 16, Elite 8, can they even make it a close game? Because this team, has been around, and then they've also got, bullied at times. But Drew Timme has been great. Strother's been great. And there's now only a game back from St. Mary's after their loss last week to LMU as well. So if Gonzaga can win out and next week they play St. Mary's, they could be playing for first place in the conference. And speaking of those St. Mary Gales, they suffer that loss to LMU on the road by 4. And they get through this week. They play Gonzaga next week for the bragging rights in the West Coast Conference. And Gonzaga's won it for a long time. It feels like they've been winning it every single year for the last 15 years. If St. Mary's can beat Gonzaga again next week, it's theirs to claim. 12, Indiana is making a big jump. And this one is more or less on other teams rather than their big week. They beat Rutgers by 6, which is a good ranked win at the time. And then they escaped Michigan on the road with a 1-point win where Michigan didn't score the last 4 minutes of the game, and Indiana had to claw their way back for that win. And it's a great gutty win. Obviously, I'm a little biased with Michigan, but they have been up and down and played some tough teams. And Indiana now is facing Northwestern on the road, who's ranked, in Illinois, who just missed out. So it doesn't get any easier for this Hoosier team. But if they keep on winning, expect them to be almost in the top 10 next week. 11, Marquette is actually falling out of the top 10 due to the loss of UConn, but they did beat Georgetown by 14, so it's nothing too crazy for them. They still have that half-game lead over Xavier. 11-2 in their last 13, which is very surprising. I don't think anyone was counting on this Marquette team to be this good this early, but this is a team that you could really see either getting upset or making a run. And I'm going to lean on towards making a run almost to the Elite 8 just because I think this team has something special to them. A little Cinderella story from a team that shouldn't really be in this position right now. Starting the top 10, the Baylor Bears jump back in after beating TCU on the road. And this team is 9-1 in their last 10. They started 0-4 in conference play, and here they are just absolutely coming back and doing what they do best in winning. But their big thing is, are they going to stay hot going into Big 12 play into March, into the tournament? That's the only key question. And their 3 guards of George, Flagler, and Cryer are the team. And if one of them has an off night, then this team does struggle a little bit and have to depend on the others. So Baylor will need a 4th guy to step up, I think, come March if this team really wants to take it to the next level. At 9, Tennessee drops 3 spots, and they did lose 2 games, but both of those by 1 point at the buzzer. And I can't, reward the other teams for hitting good shots at the end and penalizing Tennessee a lot for that. So got to keep them in the top 10. This team is still a very good team. This team could be even in the top 5 if they figure out a way to win those games. But they are 4 games back in the SEC with 6 to play. So more than likely they are almost out of it. 4th of 1 seed in the SEC. This team still is going to make some noise in SEC play, just because there's always going to be a middle pack seed in almost every conference tournament this year in the Power 5 that could make some noise just because everyone is jumbled up. At 8, Virginia drops 1 spot. And this is more in part to them escaping Duke at home in OT, but they did get bailed out. I'm not even going to say possibly. They did. They didn't get the foul called on them, even though it was called, and they said it was after the time ran out. And, a lot of people were very unhappy with that. So they got lucky in a sense, but they did win when it mattered in overtime. They did get the job done. Now they go on the road to face Louisville and Notre Dame. Should be two easy wins for them to move to 21-4. Arizona drops out of the top 3-7 because they get upset by Stanford on the road by 9. This Arizona team was in it, and then they weren't, and then they were in it again, and then just let the close game slip away from them in the end. They're still a game and a half back from UCLA in the Pac-12, but you're getting lots of contributions from the whole team. 5 players averaging 10 or more points per game, and that's a big stat I think coming into March. Because if you're going to shut down one or top 2 guys, teams are going to focus on the other guys are going to hurt them, and I think that's what makes Arizona so dangerous. Texas falls back 1 spot to number 6 after they lost to Kansas on the road, but they did come back and respond by beating West Virginia by 34. So you got to give them credit for responding after a tough loss to Kansas. But Marcus Carr has been great. Jabari Rice has been great. They lost last night to Texas Tech, so this team will be falling. No matter what happens in that Oklahoma game come next week. So expect this team to be lower than 6. At 5, Kansas is jumping not only in the top 10, but to the top 5 because of them beating Texas. And they're only a game back from them in the Big 12 standings. So can this team win out and go to 1 seed going in the Big 12 tournament? We shall see, but they have a tough test ahead of them, facing Baylor at home, who's looking to, jump Kansas in the standings as well. 4, the UCLA Bruins jump from 8 to 4 into our top 5 because they just keep on winning. They're on a 4-game winning streak. They did suffer a tough loss before, a few tough losses, but they are, I believe, 12-2 in their last 14, and that's all conference games. So this UCLA Bruins team is getting hot at the right moment. I think that this team is a Pac-12 powerhouse right now over Arizona. I know Arizona was a team that a lot of people were counting on, but UCLA is not really getting talked about enough. 3, the Purdue Boilermakers dropped from 1-3 after that road loss to Northwestern. They got outscored 10-1 in the last 3 minutes of the game to lose, and it's tough luck for Purdue after they just couldn't get anything to fall in the end. They still have a very good chance to be the 1 seed come tournament time. 5 games left, 2.5 game lead on Northwestern and Indiana. It's going to be tough for them to blow it, especially with the teams they play. I mean, Maryland, they should maybe give them a little trouble, but they should get that one. Ohio State, well, they're just struggling really bad right now, and I think they should dominate that one. So Purdue's going to have to win 2 games, and they should be the number 1 seed in Big Ten play. At 2, staying at 2, are the Houston Cougars. They're not jumping up to 1, even after blowing out Tulsa by 38 in their only game of the week. They're on a 5-game winning streak. And this team, maybe they're on another crash course for another Final Four, just like in 2020. Sasser's been great. Walker's been awesome. And, another team, just because they're not in the Power 5, isn't getting enough love in the social media presence as I thought they would be for being this high ranked almost all year. And at 1, the Alabama Crimson Tide earned their first ranking. It feels like football. They're always out in the top 5. They beat Florida by 28 and Auburn by 8 last week. They're 13-1 in their last 14 games. Still undefeated in SEC play, which is very, very shocking, just seeing how that conference is shaking out. But Mark Sears and Brandon Miller have been the driving forces of this Crimson Tide team. They have to go on the road to face Tennessee, which will be a very tough challenge after they're on a 2-game losing streak, and I'm sure they don't want to make it 3. But Georgia is a team that could give Alabama fits. Just because Georgia has been known to play teams tough so far in the SEC. As we jump to the end of the video, make sure you guys hit the subscribe button to be entered into our giveaway at 500 subscribers. We're doing an autograph giveaway. All you have to do to be entered is be subscribed to our channel. But until next week, the Bench Buddies are out.